To Spotlight TV. I'm your host, Emily Zubi. And this morning we have quite the energetic and amazing guest. We have Erika Obando, who not only is a TEDx global speaker, she's an author, she's a certified master life coach, and recently spoke at our CEO circle and just absolutely wowed. If you haven't heard her speak, you need to. In addition, she is the this year's president of NABO, which is the National Association of Women-Owned Business. So this woman is nonstop. And welcome to Spotlight TV. Welcome, Erika. So good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I need to walk around with you more often. I like that introduction.
Oh, you do. Well, you are. You're Fireball. And I remember we have a mutual friend that introduced us, and he kept saying to me, "No, you need to know Erika. The both of you are going to be instant friends." And lo and behold, we are. And I'm so grateful that you spoke at our CEO circle, and I got to hear you firsthand, and I just very, very grateful. But that energy and that enthusiasm is so important. So this is all about you, your spotlight. So let's start from the beginning, like
Oh,
what your inspiration, your journey to where you are now.
well, thank you for that. And thank you for inviting me to the CEO circle. That was such a beautiful room of powerful women. And I'm all about empowering the women. So to be part of that and to gift them tools that they can use in their life, both personally and professionally, was a gift to me. So thank you for that. And where do I start? My inspiration. Quite frankly, look, we all come from a story. Mine was no better or no worse than anybody else's, but I do come from trauma. I do come from extreme hardships that I overcame throughout my life. And the inspiration gets driven from that. It's like if I survived that and figured out a way to thrive, even though I come from that beginning, why don't I share that with the next woman that can, use that tool to propel herself forward as well? So I'm inspired by my story, but more importantly, by the next woman that I help.
That's amazing. Well, how long have you been been a certified master life coach? Let's talk about that, because I know there are many people that, say, oh, they're going to do it. They do it.
Right.
Where does that fall into your journey?
Well, I got my certifications 4 years ago. I started TPE coaching and consulting, and TPE stands for the pink elephant, right? Because the pink elephant in any room right now, or it always has been, is the wellness, mental wellness. How can you be okay in all of the places that you show up? We don't have to be perfect, but how can you be okay? And so I started coaching 4 years ago, and it came from the need for someone for the next person to feel supported. I've been a professional speaker for 12 years. I've been on national and international stages, and without fail, every time I got off of a stage, somebody connected to my story or my tool or something that I shared, and they'd beeline to me. They wanted to hug me and hold me and then say, listen, if you can be okay, considering what you've been through, maybe I could be okay. And it almost gave them permission. And then the question kept coming up, well, can you coach me? And I was like, oh. I'm a speaker, I'm an author. I don't know that I'm a coach. So at first I was very hesitant, but I'm a woman of faith. And so for me, that was a given. It was like, wow, I guess this is where I'm supposed to be. So I got certified 4 years ago, and I've been helping people ever since. I actually started with one-on-ones. I started helping people, individuals, in getting unstuck from their lives. We go through those parts in our lives where we're like, I don't even know where I'm going. Like, where's my life headed? Or you're stuck, or you have a vision, but you don't know how to get there. So I started helping people in that space. But then most recently, my company started supporting companies. So companies are now starting to feel the pain points of people not engaged, a high turnover. And so they bring me in as a supporting element, as a bonus to their benefits, saying, listen, I want you to feel seen, heard, and valued, and we're bringing in a professional to help you get there.
What would you say individually is the biggest or the concern or issue that most people come to you with? Is there one kind of major thing that you hear, a common thread that you hear over and over again?
Yes, actually, regardless of the age, because I've worked with 18-year-olds all the way through my more seasoned women, which are in their mid 60s, and without fail, what it's the inevitable. I didn't figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. Right? It's that I wanted to be there, but it's too late, or I want to go there, or I don't know how to do it. So it's about the accountability component that people kind of seek me out for, because no different than a gym. I don't know if you go to a gym. I try. I really do try. But I very rarely go. However, with the gym concept, the trainer, you could go to the gym and do exercises, right? And you may or may not see results, but the trainer holds you accountable. That's why a lot of people go to a trainer, because they're like, I know that that guy or that woman is going to get my body the way I want it to, because there's the accountability. So I'm the emotional accountability component to that transaction, right? So people bring me in because they're like, oh, Erika gave me homework. She needs me to get it done, and we're gonna meet in another session. So it's taking the steps towards where you wanted to be, but now having the built-in accountability partner that's gonna be like, Oye, let's do this. Where is it?
Uh-huh. I love it. I love it. And you have such a great model that you shared with us. And I love how you broke it down, because I think it was like, it was super easy to understand
Mhm.
and easy to identify too, where some of the stop gaps are, or where some of the issues. When you were developing all these materials, I mean, is that like, I imagine you have several courses because we had
Mhm.
talked about different. What's your favorite one to speak on?
My self-auditing, right? We are so conditioned in today's world to do this. That person made me feel like that. That person, caused me to do this, right? We're not taking I said we're not taking accountability. So I say all the time, instead of doing this, flip it. Flip it and do this, because it's in this change that we see the changes outside of our environment, right? I show up to places and I can't say, oh, that person made me feel like, no, I allowed that person to make me feel this way, right? And so my favorite one is seeing the people embrace the accountability conversation, because we're so used to that, right? And because it deflects the blame elsewhere, that means we don't have to do anything about it. But when you do this, then it allows people to say, oh, I guess I got to do some work internally to be able to change my environment. So I love the accountability, because once it resonates, you can't unsee or unhear it, and then now you have to act on it.
And one of the things we talked about was accountability, but
Mhm.
also taking it to the next level. How to
Yes.
take your performance, your business. That's very much, our theme this year, the Pink Passport for our big event is taking to going to new heights, right?
Hmm.
In 2025. That's my theme on my playlist and everything else. How do you keep, as a coach, how do you keep your fire ignited, and how do you, because I imagine it gets kind of draining to be giving, giving, giving. How do you keep your soul fed, and how do you keep it fresh?
Well, I love to pour into myself, right? Because I deposit into that wellness that I know that I then have to share with other people. And so I'm very mindful about researching, about positioning myself in different educational components so that I'm learning as I pour into others. But more importantly, I have two elements that help me tremendously, and that's a therapist. Because I take my job is to take people's problems on and help them solve it. So I, in essence, take on people's problems on for a living. And so sometimes I'm an empath, and so sometimes that sticks with me, stays, sometimes it simmers longer than it needs to. And so I work with a therapist that helps me kind of filter those things out. Like, okay, Erica, what's the challenge here? Now that we got a solution, when you go to session with your client, then you figure it out there. But right now you're in this space. So she helps me compartmentalize really well. And then the other thing is, and this, I'm very big on this, anytime you're going to work with a coach, you have to ask them, do you have a coach? Right? Because if they're investing in themselves, then have at it. Right? But if they're not investing in themselves, they know it all. Ugh, run in the opposite
Uh-huh.
direction.
So you
I
do have a coach.
Oh yeah, I have 4 coaches. Are you kidding me?
That
In
I didn't
different
know. Ooh.
capacities. Yeah, because I need a business coach, right? Because I know how to coach. I know how to do what I do. I feel very fortunate to have that gift. But the business aspect of it is a whole other animal, right? And so I need a business coach that I adore. She helps me and guides me and makes me think outside of my boxes. I have a, kind of like someone that helps me, another coach that helps me with my branding. How do I position myself out there? Because there's a million coaches out there. How does Erika show up different? So I have different coaches. I have a spiritual coach, right? That she needs to pour into me as well, because sometimes there's that moment where I'm like, I need to call out to the universe. I've done all I can do. Now I have to surrender to the universe. So,
Well, you inspired a lot of the women in our group and our CEO
oh,
circle in a lot of ways. But one of the things was you've written a book
I have.
and you shared your journey and how to, most importantly, how to get it done, right?
Yeah.
How to go from that idea, that concept to getting it
Mhm.
published. So why don't you share about your book and also about the journey in writing the book?
So the book is called Without a Voice, A Woman's Journey to Resiliency, and I also published it in Spanish.
Why don't we show, yeah, so if you, and
So
tell us how we can get a copy of this great book.
you can go
It's
to my
beautiful cover.
website. You can go to my website. It's erikaobando.com or tpecoaching.com, and you can get it in English, which is Without a Voice, or in Spanish, which is El Silencio de mi Voz. And this was actually a pretty interesting journey. I had an opportunity to share my story on a TED Talk first in 2017 called When Breaking Points Lead to Empowerment. And that catapulted me, to get a lot of requests saying, I need to know more. You gave me bullet points, like I need to know more. And so that's how Without a Voice came about. I set myself out to write it. And, I'm a Leo Latina, I'm in control, right? So I was like, oh, I'm going to write this book in a year. We're going to be all set. No, the universe had a whole different plan for me. And so it took me 3.5 years. The reason why is because I feel like to produce a book that was going to impact the reader, I had to relive it. I had to heal through it. I had to have self empathy and self compassion through it, and then come out on the other side healed and victorious. Because when I started the book, I was still a victim. And then at the end of it, I felt like I was victorious. I owned my story. I stepped into the power of it. And so it was it was a very heavy learning lesson, because, we walk through life saying, I'm good. That's my past. That doesn't haunt me anymore. No, it really does. And this book taught me that. Like I said, it took me 3.5 years, and I started it because one day my fiance said, enough. I've heard enough of the excuses about, I'm going to write this book. I'm going to write this book. And we went away for a weekend, and he said, you're going to go to the beach with your laptop, start writing that one page. I'm going to go cook. And literally that's how it
Right.
happened.
And for the men listening out there,
Correct.
take a page
Yes.
out of that book,
Yes,
out
I
of
love
his
it.
book.
Yeah, because look, we all need accountability partners. And he saw that there was a passion for me to put this project out. But I was hesitant. And I think like in the back of my mind, I knew why, because I knew the process that it was going to take. So he pushed me kind of like off the edge a little bit, and there it was. So I wrote it in English. My first language is English. I'm from Medellin, Colombia. So I was born there. But my first language was always English. I learned Spanish when I was 14. I went back to Colombia, and I lived there for a year. So the English book was me. I wrote it. I poured myself into it. I thought it was going to be very educational for the next person that was going to read it. The Spanish version, El Silencio de mi Voz, it's more for the relatability. I know my Latinos that are going to pick up the book and read it are going to feel connected to it. Some of these Latino communities have lived through a lot of what I lived through. And the connecting value for me was why it was important to also release it in Spanish.
That's absolutely, absolutely amazing. So, what does, I mean, what does your routine look like in terms of any given day? Like, give us a day in the life of Erica's life.
Busy. No, I profess, and I practice what I preach. I'm very big on my morning routine. I get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock every morning. I'm a morning bird. And so whenever I get up, I have this thing called a 5-step mindfulness countdown that I share with my clients. And it's about taking 5 minutes because I'm Latina. So my head is, I don't have time to do yoga. I'm sorry for those people that do find good, peace in yoga. I just don't. I'm too hyper. And so I take 5 minutes in the morning. I do 5 deep breaths. I look around for 4 different things in my environment that I work so hard to put in my home, right? So I am very intentional about saying, "Wow, I remember that painting. I got it because we were vacationing," or this, and to jog my memory of 4 different positive things around my home that would fill my day up, right? From the start. 3 things I'm grateful for outside of family, health, and your job. 2 positive compliments to yourself. I look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, you nailed that interview yesterday. That's going to be tomorrow. You nailed it yesterday, or you did such a great job, because when you fill your own cup and you're full of yourself, right? Then everything else when you walk out the door is cherry on top, right? Whipped cream and
I
cherry.
like that. What do you call it? The
5-step mindfulness countdown. I'm
I
gonna
like
I'm
it.
gonna have to share it with you.
I like it. Well, it's not only a gratitude list, but it's a kind of an applaud. Like I think sometimes we look back at our day, and I don't know if it's just women, but sometimes we could be the hardest on ourselves. So
Yes.
to be able to take out of it, I used to, when my son would, I'd pick him up from school, I'd say cherry and pit. But as an adult, we almost need to do, like, okay,
Yes.
what went really well? What could have gone better? But celebrate the cherry, right?
Yeah.
Celebrate that your successes, your wins.
Correct. Because again, if not, you walk out into the world half empty in that cup. You're walking around asking people to validate and pour into it, when in essence you've got the medicine already. Just fill your cup before you leave your home, and then that way you're showing up like that to the world. So I start with that little practice, and then I jump right into it. I have a quite a busy schedule between speaking engagements. I'm writing a second book called Your Children Don't Belong to You. It's a parenting book on positioning your mindset as from that frame, from that frame set. What if your children didn't belong to you? How would you raise them, right? Would you still hover over them, or would you give them the tools they need to be successful when you hand them over to society? So I'm in the process of writing that book.
What a great topic.
Yeah,
I love
it
that.
is.
Hey, I don't know if you've ever read Susan Ford Collins, but she's in our book of leaders, and
Okay.
she spoke also at our CEO circle, and she has done consulting for CNN, and anyhow, she wrote a book, Children Are Watching You, and
Oh,
it was
wow.
about the values that
Yeah.
we don't realize how much they're picking up on everything we
Correct.
do and everything we say and all that. But I love that concept. I mean, that's brilliant.
Well, I raised my son. I have a 27-year-old son, Christian Chavez, and he is now an associate producer for ESPN. And when people come to me for parenting advice, I kind of give them the tools that I'm putting together in the book, which is, you've got to disconnect yourself from the ownership component of parenting. Your children do not belong to you. They're transient beings that you're pouring into, helping mold, but ultimately handing over to society, and hope that you gave them everything they need to not only survive but thrive, right? And so I saw the need come up a lot when people would ask me. So that's why I said I've got to put this book together.
I like it.
So I'm finally getting to that this year. And then I do TPE coaching with a lot of individuals and companies. So my day is pretty busy, but I'm very, very, very structured with my boundaries. And so I'm in a lot of places, in the moment, and then I go on to the next. Because I think it's important for us women, you were a very busy woman yourself, right? We have to compartmentalize and be here and be there and be there and be for others. And so you have to also remember to pour into yourself. So boundaries are a very big part of my day.
That's
You laugh like,
I laugh because I probably need to reset some of the I'm like I say yes too much. I do. I mean, it's one thing, but
yeah, because we're
learning,
givers.
learning how to have those boundaries is really important. What advice would you give to your younger self? Like, looking now, you've done a lot. You've been a lot of places. You've been at the White House. All,
Yeah.
what advice would you say? If you look at the younger, Erica, what wisdom would you impart?
So I've done this exercise before. A lot of it was done whenever I did the book. I reconnected with my younger self, and she is at the helm of my life today. So she's the one that's guiding. And so when you say you have all this energy, that's her. That's her kind of coming through. I don't necessarily give her advice as much as I give her gratitude. I thank her for getting me as far as she did, right? Because my the little version of me survived so much that a young kid should never have to talk about that they've lived through.
Right.
And so whenever I look back at my younger self, I'm like, thank you. My God, you were such a courageous little girl. And you didn't break, you didn't fall, you didn't kind of bend to the moment. You stood there. It reminds me of the little girl in Wall Street, in front of the bull, right? That power pose. That's what I see her whenever I think of her, and I say thank you, because we forget that our younger selves survived so much to hand us over the baton to say, now go and live, right? Go and make us proud. And so more than advice is thank you.
I like that. And now let's reverse it. 10 years from now, where do you think you'll be? What's on the agenda? What's that dream list?
Wow, I've never been asked that. That's awesome. 10 years from now, I'm on the verge of turning 50, right, this year. So 10 years from now, I'll be 60, and I hope to look back and say, wow, what I built helped so many. And now I get to rest, and now I get to explore my life, because I pour a lot into my community, into my clients, into my people, into my family. And I want to be able to pause it a little bit to say the work has been done. And now I get to enjoy a little bit. Although I'm saying that, but I enjoy my life right now. Who am I kidding?
You're having a good time. As far as I
Exactly.
can tell, you're
Yeah,
having a good time.
I enjoy my life now. I guess it's more of it when I get there, but I want to be able to look back and say that I helped as many people as I could, with the tools that I was gifted to have, in the space of, the best version of yourself professionally and personally. I don't know why I have that drive or that hunger to help the next person. Maybe it's because there were women that helped me throughout my life, that I feel so obligated to pay it forward, that that's kind of what I want to see 10 years from now. And then be, somewhere on a beach.
Legacy is important. I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely am in my legacy era, and I'm really clear what that means. I know that I have a 29-year-old son, and definitely always look and say, okay, 20 years from now, 30, what would I want to be remembered as?
Yeah.
What's that legacy for you?
Um, I guess helping, like I said, it always comes back to that. I do a lot of mentoring for different organizations here in South Florida. I work with, this is my fourth year with Women of Tomorrow. I've done work with,
Love women.
yes, those are my girls. I said, God only gave me a son, but I get to have all these girls that are my daughters, right? So it's pouring into those organizations, that my youth, right? I mentor individual young girls that I'm like, you could do this, you could do this. I want to be able to see them succeed. And then, I don't need the gratitude or the thank you after, but I want to be able to see that something that I said or did for them propelled them into the direction that they were meant to be. So that's what I would like to see as a legacy, that, 10, 20 years from now, somebody says, I'm here because something that crazy wild lady Erika said, kind of made me make a left-hand turn, and then I'm here, right? So I'd be that would be my wish, to be able to help our younger girls that sometimes don't need or have the support that they should.
When you being a TEDx speaker, a
Hmm.
global TEDx speaker, I mean, I know a lot of people that aspire to doing that. What would you say are the like three things that you gained most from that experience? Because, that's like one of the biggest stages,
Yeah.
and without a doubt, something that, lives in the, internet space forever. But what would you say you personally, gained from that experience or learned or, takeaways?
So the first one would be the catapult. I did not expect that in sharing my story, it was going to catapult me to where I am today, right? And beyond, right? Wherever we're going next. But I didn't expect that. So that was a beautiful side effect of having been on the infamous TEDx stage, because I didn't realize that my story had the power that it did until you released it. And so that one was huge. And the second one was that the releasing component of it. I was hostage to my story for many years. I was embarrassed of it. Coming from a Latin culture, how dare you talk about it, right? If you went through something that was painful, swallow hard and keep going. You never discuss it. So for me to not only share my story and release it, but to see others have the aha moment to give themselves permission to release their story and not be a hostage to it, the ripple effect was just incredible for me. I was like, wow, because you don't know what you're doing when you're sharing something, but you don't know how you're affecting the rest of the people around you. And so when I hear people come back to me and say, in seeing you have the courage to speak about that painful part in your life, it gave me the courage to speak about mine. It's like that's it. That's when you went like this. You grabbed her hand and you lifted her up, and that was the second side effect that it took me by complete surprise. That was beautiful, because again, you do this. You step on that red dot and you're like, all right, here we go. But you don't know what's gonna happen after that. So that was the second most powerful, and the third was, I was extremely nervous for a multitude of reasons. I unfortunately lost a lot of family relationships because I let the story out. But what it taught me was that my story is not even mine. I don't even own it. No different than the parenting component. It belongs to the world to help heal and help inspire. And so that was the catapult for me to understand that I was a speaker. I had a voice. I had something to share that helped others. And again, you just can't plan for it while you're standing there all nervous. Like I was reading through my notes like, oh my God, because so many things were going through it. But I've grown a lot since, and I've helped a lot since. And yeah, that's what I took away from my TEDx talk.
Well, I congratulate you, and you really touched my heart. I mean, one of the things that I always tell women, especially, at Miami Women to Rock, is that I'm really blessed because every pain in my life, be it childhood, be it, any of the things that I went through,
Yeah,
divorce, whatever, God has found a purpose in all that pain,
correct.
and there are so many, like you said, it doesn't belong to me, but now being able to turn all that pain into something positive and learning experiences and be able to help look at what you're doing with these, girls and,
Hmm.
women of tomorrow. It's absolutely, that's the future, being able
Yeah.
to take them and show them. I was speaking at a branch's career night,
Uh-huh.
and the young girl said to me, look at me, I'm not like you, and what makes you think that I can do that? I said, I am looking at you, and I was you, and
Correct.
I knew what that was like, and I knew what it was like to ask that question. And it's not why, it's why not, right?
Yeah.
So this is a time in the show where, we have a minute and a half left where I want to turn it to you. Please, if someone wants to work with you, this is your time for your commercial, and tell everyone
Wow.
how they can reach you.
Well, thank you for that. I would love to share that I love helping people. I love working as your accountability partner. And so, as far as TPE coaching, do work with individuals one on one. Again, if you're feeling stuck, if you don't know what step to take next, I that's like my sweet spot to help people. And I also work with companies in leadership and team culture development, where I address a lot of the pain points that companies are feeling, so that they don't have the never ending high turnover that they feel. Instead, they keep good quality people within their teams because they offer the support that they need. And if you like to stay in touch with me, I am very active on social media. You can kind of drip into my day-to-days, and I'm on Instagram, Erika Obando, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. And as far as my books, If you would like to read the powerful story, you can do so on erikaobando.com or tpecoaching.com, and it's available in English and in Spanish.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Erika. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
imparting that beautiful high energy. Thank you for joining us on Spotlight TV. We will see you next week, same time. We go live every Thursday at 10 a.m. And big thank you to community newspapers for producing our show. Amazing. Love Grant and Michael and the whole team here. We thank you for joining us on Spotlight TV, and we will see you next week.